little bit, but still very recognizable. I probably am not, but most of you are. So anyway, it's really good to see you. We are here today for two things. Mr. Harold, Mr. Hamp has had a birthday. John, you do something on Sunday mornings, I think, don't you?
Happy birthday.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Everybody want to sing happy birthday to Harold?
Yes. Good. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Grandpa. Happy birthday to you.
I was told that it was a couple days ago, but that's okay. Yeah. They were just long flights getting here, right? Okay. The other part of my job, though, is I work for that organization that nobody wants to hear from, called the FAA. But you know, I get to do fun things every once in a while. Isn't that right?
Once in a while.
Once in a while. And so this is one of those fun things I get to do, and that's recognize people. And Harold's been at it quite a while. How many of you were around for the first airplane that he worked on? Oh yeah, okay. According to the paperwork that he gave me, he started in 1952. Is that right? The Air Force? And he went to aircraft maintenance training, got his license in the Air Force to work on Air Force aircraft. I don't know what he did, but they sent him to some of the coldest places on the planet. Sault Ste. Marie, up to Alaska. Of course, who wouldn't want to go to Alaska, right? Back to Sault Ste. Marie, is that right? And eventually graduated, was honorably discharged from the Air Force. Spent a little time as a, what did they call it? You weren't in the Air Force, but you were working on the airplanes, right?
Yeah, he was a mechanic in the service.
Mechanic. And did some of that. But then he moved back in this neck of the woods, and there was a little airport, and I think, Carol, you were describing it, or like west of here a little bit?
Lumberjack.
Lumberjack area? And he tinkered on airplanes for many years. Several years. And then I had the privilege of meeting him. I guess there was a fateful day that there was an auto accident, and he needed to find something else to do. It wasn't because he was working on something besides aircraft at the time as far as profession. But then he was able to get retrained, and that's when I met him. He started at Montcalm Community College in 1978, right? The reason I remember is I started the year after. And he and I had the privilege of sharing classrooms together for a year. And I had a good chance to learn from this man. He was very open with his knowledge. He helped me on some welding issues, some other odds and ends. We had a good time. And I know he went from there up to Mount Pleasant when he graduated and got his license, and then he came back here. And has spent a lot of time here tinkering on airplanes. I get a kick out of his sign out front, keeping the weekend flyer or the Sunday flyer flying. Of all the places that I go and see and talk with people and look at aircraft, everybody wants to work on the new stuff. Everybody wants to work on, the jets and the business airplanes and that kind of stuff. That's where people want to be. So what do you do if you fly J3 Cup? Where do you go?
Harold Hamp!
Harold Hamp, that's right. And so Harold, it's been very, very good to have you in the community working on aircraft, keeping them up and going, and so on. And the award that we want to give is called the Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award. And it's really interesting to go back, and there's an article, if you Google his name, look under Aviation, you'll come up with a neat article. Well, what's kind of cool is when you start reading through it and seeing how Mr. Taylor fit into the program. You will appreciate. Have you ever read this? I don't think so.
I have to read to him.
Okay. You'll appreciate this. He starts out, the Wright brothers, after they had made their gliders, they wanted to put an engine on it. So they went out and they tried to contract with the automakers to get an engine. Remember, there was a bunch of them back then, 1903, 1902. And here's what they wanted: an engine that weighed no more than 200 pounds that would give them 8 horsepower. Now anymore, we've got chainsaws that are put up that many horsepower. But in that day, I mean, it was kind of unique. And they couldn't find anybody that would do it. Whether they could or couldn't, or wanted to put up with it, whatever. So they decided to try to make it themselves. Now, I know if I go to my house and I start counting up all the spark plugs I have in engines, it's an amazing amount. Because we have engines, I mean, we all live with several engines at our place. Back in these days, that wasn't the case. So the Wright brothers got together, Orville and Wilbur got together with Charlie and said, why don't you make us an engine? We want to fly it. Here towards the end of the year, we want you to make us an engine. Now, so not really knowing how one really was, they started to design it, put it on a paper. Charlie would make drawings, put it up, stick it up over his workshop, he'd work it out. But what's amazing is the crankshaft. Now, some of you who work with metal, I know around here that that's pretty common. He starts out with a piece of tool steel, 1/16 or something like that thick, so big by so big. He draws out a crankshaft on the steel, and then he takes a drill and he drills his outline and takes a hammer and a chisel and breaks out the pieces. Now this is the beginning of a crankshaft. Puts it in his lathe, because he has a lathe and a drill press, he grinds it down. Now, how many of you machinists would say this is a great idea? Nobody would. But this is what he had to work with. He had to make springs, he had to make valves, he had to make cylinders, he had to do this. They were able to contract out with somebody to make the crankcase out of aluminum to make it lighter. But everything, all the cylinders screwed into the crankcase, the head screwed onto the cylinders, all this stuff. Really kind of interesting. By the way, he did it in 6 weeks. He ended up with a 150-pound engine that put out 12 horse. Now, how many of you pilots would love to have an engine that puts out 25% more horsepower than you wanted? But this is what they were able to do. Granted, the flight was really short, but it worked. But it's that ingenuity, it's that tenacity that Charlie put in there, and the pioneer that he was, that we've taken this award and put it after. Guys like Harold, if you stop back and think, let's see, 1903, 2014, that's 101 years, right? 111? Okay, yeah.
We're not judging.
Do I have any teachers here? No. 111 years. Harold's been at it almost half of the life of powered flight. So think about what guys like him and he has seen over his time. And you just stop to think about the last few years and the technology changes, and what has he seen? And yet out of this little shop, this big shop, little shop, whatever you want, however, he's had airplane come and go, in and out of here, fixed well. You guys have been able to fly them safely, had a good time with it, enjoyed the company of Harold. I'm sure there's been a couple stories told around the table. When the application came in, 3 of the letters that he sent me were people that he'd worked with to help them get their license. So not only was he working on airplanes, he was helping to teach. I think his latest one, I wish I had a copy of it right here, is a starter that he's worked on for these small airplanes. You stop and think about getting somebody away from that swinging guillotine, put them inside the cockpit to start the airplane. The airplane is a great thing. Another opportunity to enhance safety. Thank you, Harold. So it's my privilege. Can you stand up? We've got some things that we wanted to give to you, Harold. Let's start out with this. There's 2 plaques that we have. One is a pretty, what we call our pretty plaque. The other one is the real plaque. That's how we say that. This says 50 years of dedicated service in aviation safety, Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration. The Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award presented to Harold D. Hamp, August 23rd, 2014. I'm doing pretty good, but the writing's big so far. In recognition of your contributions to building and maintaining the safest aviation system in the world, to practicing and promoting safe aircraft maintenance for more than 50 consecutive years. It's my privilege. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, the Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award presented to Harold D. Hamp in appreciation for your dedicated service, technical expertise, professionalism, and many outstanding maintenance contributions to further the cause of aviation safety. Signed by our administrator.
Slow pretty. Don't fall over.
There's a letter that comes from our boss over in Chicago, Mr. Jim Gardner. You know Jim?
I do.
And he writes a letter to all these recipients, and I think it's rather fitting. On behalf of the Federal Aviation Administration, I take great pride in presenting the Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award in recognition of your 50 years of aviation maintenance experience. This award was initiated by the Federal Aviation Administration in honor of the first aviation mechanic of powered flight, Mr. Charles Taylor. In doing so, we are recognizing and honoring those individuals who have contributed and maintained safe aircraft for 50 years or more. Like you, they are mechanics who have brought the aviation industry forward for the enjoyment and benefit of future generations of men and women who look to the skies. This award now acknowledges your exemplary service, professionalism, devotion to aviation safety, recognition by your peers, and the appreciation of countless pilots to whom you have made powered flight possible. I extend you best wishes for your future endeavors. And one more little thing, just something so that when he drives around and goes up to the coffee shop, people can understand what he has. We have a little pin for him, a little lapel pin. And on the front part here is, looks like a picture of the Wright Flyer superimposed over some sort of supersonic guy with a little shiny thing in the middle. There you go. Thank you. Now we have somebody else to recognize here too. Because you see, 50 years in aircraft maintenance comes at a price. Carol? Here's a lady that's put up with the late nights, the weekends lost, all those kinds of neat things. Put up with, I need another tool. What do you mean you need another tool? Yes, I need another tool. Any of you guys ever had this conversation? And it is amazing what the spouses put up with for this career and what has happened. Mr. Gardner's written you a letter too. Yep. The Federal Aviation Administration Charles Taylor Award, Master Mechanic Award, is given to mechanics in recognition of 50 years of aviation maintenance and service to the aviation community. We also understand that it requires the dedication and support of a very special spouse for that to happen. As a token of appreciation for your sacrifice and commitment to and support of your husband's 50 years of dedicated service to aviation, the Federal Aviation Administration And the Great Lakes Region Fast Team would like to present you with a spouse recognition pin.
Tommy, did you say you had a poem you wanted you wrote for your grandfather?
Happy birthday, Grandpa. This is so amazing.
I thought you said you had a poem.
I do. It's not as cool as this, though.
Come up here and read it for us.
This is entitled My Grandfather. You've showed us so much throughout your great life. My parents, aunts, uncles, and truly an amazing wife. Since I was a kid, I've seen amazing things. From the hangar to grandfather, your love has had wings. I hope you can do this, and I know that you can. Give us 80 more years. We're all your #1 fan. From the family to you, we show our true love. You've been an angel sent from above. Your life's been amazing, and this much I know. When Mom was in labor, you plowed through the snow. 1978. Thank you for life and all that you've done. I love you so much. From your favorite grandson. Obviously, I wrote that.
I think all of them did.
Good job, Tom.